This conference will now be recorded.
Can any one of you please confirm if my voice is audible?
Yes, it's audible now.
Thank you. So in the previous demo session, we have discussed about the performance testing and the load runner architecture, and we also discussed about the comparison between the load runner and the other tools in the market. And we have also recorded a couple of steps like login and logout using one of the component called Vusion, and we have seen how the response time will come up in the results. Okay, so all these things we have discussed in the previous session. So in today's session, we will be discussing about the performance testing and the different types of performance testing. Irrespective of the tool we use, okay, these types of performance tests are done in the projects. Okay, so it can be any tool. So, but as a performance tester, we have to understand different types of performance tests, because these tests we frequently, or we regularly do these types of tests in our projects. Okay, so I'll be sharing a PowerPoint slide today. Okay, so here to begin with the performance testing again, let's assume that there is a bank website. Okay, and as usual, many of us will access the bank website, and let's assume that around 10 a.m. In the morning, more number of people are accessing the bank website. Okay, that means that during any day, let's say that around 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. More number of people are accessing the bank website. Okay, let's say those number of users are user 1, 2, 3, so on till 100. Okay, now all these users are nothing but people accessing bank application, isn't it? So from performance testing tool perspective, these are some virtual or virtual users. But if you consider the real banking application, uh, these users are nothing but the people who are accessing the bank application, right? Now, all these users who logged in simultaneously are called concurrent users in performance testing terminology. Okay, so going forward, we'll be using this term called concurrent users, and because these terminologies, we use regularly in our projects. Okay, during NFR, non-functional requirements gathering, and in other phases as well. Okay, now here, and how do you measure the application, how the application is behaving and all? The basic criteria is the response time, right? The basic criteria to validate is the response time. So on an average, any transaction or any page should load in less than 2 seconds. That is the industry standard. So for example, if you're entering username and password and you click on login button, ideally you should navigate to home page within 2 seconds. For some reasons, if it is taking more than 2 seconds, okay, there could be some issue. Okay, there could be some issue in that. So that's how we have to identify the issues. So here issues, again, in performance testing terminology, and an issue is called bottleneck. Okay, so whenever we work on performance testing projects, or if we attend any interviews, so we'll be discussing this term called bottlenecks. Okay, so that's the high level introduction of performance testing, or how it is done and everything. So now, if we will be discussing this definition as well. It's a kind of textbook definition. However, it is not mandatory for the interviews. I mean, if you're going to any interview and nobody will be asking you, can you tell me the performance testing definition? No, ideally they won't ask you. But however, for our understanding, we have to we have to discuss this definition. So now I can say that PT is nothing but performance testing. It's a testing an application for speed, stability and scalability in production-like environment under virtual user load to meet non-functional requirements. So this definition looks a little bit, or confusing or a little bit complex to understand or whatever it is, but we have to understand these terms which are mentioned here. For example, speed, stability, and scalability, and also the production-like environment and the non-functional requirements. So all these words we have to understand better, so that it will be easy going forward. So now let's discuss this speed, stability, and all. So performance testing is generally measured using speed. So speed is nothing but how fast the application is responding, okay, to a request. As usual, I said, like, we have entered some username and password and I clicked on login. So how fast the application is responding, how fast it is going to navigating to the home page, okay, with the expected load. With the expected load is very, very important here. See, I can simply say that speed is nothing but how fast the application is responding, or how fast the pages are loading, or something like that. But the main terminology here is the expected or current load. With only one user accessing the application, it might navigate in a fraction of a second. But assume that at a time 1,000 or 1,500 users are accessing the application at the same time. So there could be some delay in processing the request then. But however, with all the given load, okay, with all the given load, ideally it should not take more than 2 seconds. That's the industry standard. Okay, so how fast the application responds to your request with expected or current load. Okay, in other words, response time should be less than the SLA. This is the speed. Okay, ideally, in few years ago, or I can say some 20 years ago or something like that, or 15-20 years ago, the people or the projects where the performance testing is carried on, like they were working on this speed only. They were measuring the performance testing in terms of speed only. But however, later, due to the changes, or you can say in the agile world, everything is going at a rapid pace, right? All the development work, deployments, maintenance, testing, everything is going on a rapid pace, and the requirements or the the requirements are also coming up very fast. Okay, there's a trend in technologies and everything, right? So from there, performance testing is also measured using other two. That is one thing is stability. Along with speed, we have other two as well. The other one is stability. Stability is nothing but the performance should not degrade even after using the application for a long time. What it means is, for example, you are testing your application. Okay, let's take the bank website only. You are testing the bank website. So you are testing it for 5 hours. Let's assume you ran a test for 5 hours. So when you run the test for 5 hours, the application, how it behaved in the first 1 hour, it should behave in the same way in the last 1 hour as well. Okay, what it means that the performance should not degrade. Like in the first 1 hour, all the response times are coming in less than 2 seconds, and as the execution progresses, then the response time should not be coming like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or something like that. There should be there should be some consistency during those 5 hours. On an average, it can take less than 2 seconds. Here and there it can take greater than 2 seconds, but on an average it cannot exceed 2 seconds. So that's where we are testing the application for stability. When I say stability, we are running the test for long duration. Okay, if you see the speed, that is generally we do the load test and different types of tests, right? So I'll explain you. And the next one is the scalability. So scalability is nothing but the application's ability to increase in handling the increasing user volume. So for example, consider the same bank application pre-COVID. Since last year, we have been seeing this COVID situation, right? So before prior to COVID, let's say in 2019 or 2018, many people used to go to bank as well daily, right? Many people used to go to bank daily, for withdrawing or depositing or transferring money or whatever it is. But post COVID, due to there is a huge increase in accessing the bank websites. Okay, people are not directly going to banks; they are accessing the online services, right? So now but so now why we are now how is it related to scalability is, for example, today my bank my bank website is being used by 1,000 users. Okay, let's say that 1,000 users are accessing my bank website. Now in next 6 months or next 1 year, I might the bank management is assuming that there will be increase in the number of users from 1,000 to 2,000 or 1,000 to 1,500. So keeping that in mind, we have to test the application for scalability. Like it should handle uh, more than the expected users. Okay, more than the expected load. So that's why this particular scalability is in place. So these three terms, speed, stability, and scalability, these three terms I'll be relating it to the different types of tests in some time. Okay, so do remember these three words: speed, stability, and scalability. So I will relate it to the different types of tests, okay, in some time. Now this particular slide is more about uh, the performance testing environment. Okay, so where do we test actually? So let's assume that I'm assuming that you are from IT background, or you have some knowledge about the different environments, like dev environment or testing environment or production environment, something like this. Now I'm sure you all are aware of it, right? So in which environment the performance testing should be conducted? In which environment the performance testing should be conducted? Now if any one of you are from the IT background, or let's say from QA or automation, or you can give me the answer, like you can guess any answer, like in which environment the performance testing should be done. Any guess or any input from you guys?
It should be either in dev or UAT, because production is being used by the actual users. So it should be on dev or UAT.
Okay, so so the actual environment where the performance testing should be done is, I know we cannot say directly, but it can be dev or something like that, UAT or SIT or IS something. So only thing we have to understand is whatever the configuration that is there in the production. Let's say there are two application servers, or two web servers, or one database server, or whatever is the architecture in the production. The same kind of configuration or architecture should be there in the performance testing environment as well. Okay, for example, what is a web server and what is the app server. Okay, for those who are not aware of this, web server and app server is nothing but, so for example, when they do development, right? So this particular app server, whatever is there here, this particular app server will be used to to maintain all the backend code. These app servers contain all the backend code. The application's logic, the main code, whatever they write to the actual functionality coding, right? That logic will be resided in the application server. The web server is more about the front end, like loading browser pages. Okay, so this web server generally takes the request from the browser, and it forwards to the downstream, like the load balancer or the application app servers. So what is a load balancer here on a high level? So let's say that at a time 1,000 requests are coming. Okay, some 1,000 people are accessing the application. So 1,000 requests will be coming to web server first. Okay, 1,000 requests will be coming to web server first. So instead of we have two application servers here. So 1,000 requests are coming. Now what this load balancer will do is, this load balancer will equally distribute the requests to the application server. So one application server should not be overloaded. For example, out of 1,000, so if there are two application servers, one application server cannot take 900 and other application server cannot take 100. Okay, so it should equally distribute the request, so that the traffic will flow smoothly. So this load balancer is a kind of program which will divide the traffic coming from the web server and equally distribute to the app server. Okay, so whatever, and obviously the DB server is all about containing the database structure and all. So whatever this particular architecture, okay, if it is there in the production, the same architecture should be there in the performance testing environment as well. So that's why performance testing environment should always be like a production like environment. Otherwise you should not test it, or if you test it also, you cannot guarantee that whatever the results you are getting will be the same in the production as well. Okay, for example, in production there are 2 application servers, and in our performance testing environment there is only 1 application server. And if you go for a test and you are getting, let's say 5 seconds, okay, because we have only 1 app server, and in production you may get only less than 2 seconds. Or if you consider it as a reverse, in production you have only 1 app server, in performance testing environment you have 2 app servers. So what will happen? In performance testing environment everything will work well because we have 2 app servers, load is getting distributed equally. But whereas in production, what is happening? There is only 1 app server and it will take all the load. When the load is more, it will respond slowly to the request. That means whatever the page is loading in 2 seconds, it might load in 5 to 6 seconds, or it might take 10 seconds as well. So that's the reason performance testing should always be done in the production like environment. It could be SIT, or it could be UAT, or it could be dev, or whatever it is. So it depends on the project actually. In some companies they have a dedicated performance testing environment. In some companies they share it with the SIT or the functional testing environment. Okay, so that this is one important point. So we'll discuss further about this in the non-functional requirements gathering session, maybe maybe tomorrow or day after. So here different types of performance testing. So generally in any project, okay, in any project, basic we will perform minimum 3 out of these 5. The minimum 3 are load test, endurance test, and scalability test. These 3 are minimum. Okay, in any project, in any company, these 3 will be tested mandatory. Okay, load test, endurance test, scalability test. Stress test, it depends on the requirement. If client says go for a stress test, or if there is any application which has some issues and they wanted to do they wanted to do stress test, we'll do it. Volume test, it's again more about the database side. So we'll see what these tests are all about, because we have to understand these tests, because every day, or it's a regular work for us. All the performance testers in every project, they should do all these tests. So now we'll begin with the load test first. So what is this load test all about? The load test, just before few minutes we discussed about speed, stability, and scalability, right? This load test is directly related to speed. How? Again, this load test ensures that the application and the test is stable and can handle expected load. So like this load test is all about, we are verifying whether the pages are loading as per the SLA. SLA is nothing but a service level agreement, so with the expected load. Okay, let's say the load is 100 or 500 users, and if I run a test, I should get all the response times within 2 seconds. That means how fast the page is loading. Okay, how fast the application is responding. Okay, that is nothing but the load test. That is nothing but the load test. So the term speed is directly related to the load test, and this is the basic test, or this is the first test that we will do in any project. So for example, if I'm testing any bank application, or if I'm testing any other e-commerce application, or whatever it is, if I get a project as a performance tester, the first test I should do is load test. If this test is failing, there is no point in doing remaining tests. Okay, if you want to execute the remaining tests like endurance or scalability test, then this test should be successful first. So based on this result only, we'll move on to the other tests. Okay, now here let's assume that for any for application expected load is 500 users. Now who will give this expected load to us, or how to get expected load? Okay, now the client or I got selected to some project. Now they told me to test with 500 users. Now who is giving this 500 number to me? Any input, like any guess, who will give this 500 users to us? Or someone should tell us, like, okay, can you test my application with 500 users and tell me how the application is responding or how the application is behaving? Obviously the client will tell us, right? The client, in terms of business requirements, he will convey the information to us. When I say to us, to all the stakeholders, like, to the application team, to the performance testing team, to everyone. Now, from where he is getting 500? Can someone guess, like, from where client is telling, like, how he is assuming that 500 people will access his application, his or her application? Uh, so how he is getting to a confirmation that we have to test with 500 users?
Either it should be a peak hour where the customers or the user login.
Business analyst.
Yes, in fact, both are correct in some way. Business analyst will be involved, and the client will definitely see the peak hours. Like for example, if it's an already existing application, okay, now there are some major changes happened, okay, recently. Now he wants to test, go for a performance test, and he wants to see there are no issues before getting deployed into production. Now he gave this number 500. Actually, how he will get this number is, if it is an existing application, what he will do is, he will in the last 6 months or in the last 1 year, he will use some tools like database or some data analytic tools like Splunk and some other tools. He will see in the last 6 months or in the last 1 year, in which month, in which day, on which day, from which time to which time, during which hour there were more number of users accessing the application. He should get that information from either a DB or any database search queries, or using some queries, or using some tools like Splunk. He will get this information from the last 6 months or the last 1 year historical data. Okay, during in which month and which day, which hour, more number of people accessed their application. He'll get that number and he'll give it to us. Now we have to test the application with that given number. That number will be the load test. That number will be used to do the load test, and load test will always be done for 1 hour. Load test we will run for 1 hour. Okay, load test will be run only for 1 hour. Okay, now this is all about the load test, and this is the basic test we have to perform. Okay, the next comes the stress test. So stress test is nothing but we have to test until the application breaks. So you have to tell the client that, hey, your application will support this number of max this number of users. It cannot support beyond that. Okay, for example, let's say there is a restaurant. Okay, there is a restaurant with 5 tables. There is a restaurant with 5 tables, and there is one there is a one waiter or server, whatever it is. So there is a one server who will take order from the customers, and he will serve the food. Let's assume that. Now all the 5 tables are full. He is taking orders from all the 5 tables, and then he is serving the food. Now the management, the hotel management, what they thought, the number of people, let's say that number of people who walked into the restaurant are more now. All the tables are full. Now what the management decided, they decided to add 3 more tables. Okay, they decided to add 3 more tables. Now this particular server who accepted orders from 5 tables, now he started accepting from 8 tables. Okay, 8 tables, and then he started serving the food as well. Okay, and then again the customers are full. Now the management decided to add 3 more tables again. Now total number of tables are 11. Now still this server is started taking orders from the customers. However, there is a slight delay in delivering the food. Now initially, when there were only 5 tables, he managed to deliver the food in, let's say, 10 minutes. Now when the tables are 11, Now this particular server who is not able to manage all these 11 tables, now obviously he will take more time to serve the food, right? Because the number of tables are more and the number of customers are more. Okay, they have increased. So obviously there will be a delay. Instead of 10 minutes, he started delivering or serving the food in, let's say, 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Now again the customers are full. Now again the management added 4 more tables. Now the total number of tables are 15. Now what the server is doing? He said, I cannot deliver the food. He said it's enough. I alone cannot manage to deliver the food for all these 15 tables. Now that's the break point. He could not perform his job for all those 15 tables. He said, no, I cannot. The max he could deliver is for 11 tables only. The max he could deliver deliver the food is or serve the food is for 11 tables only. He could not do beyond that. Now the restaurant owner, he could, and now he knows that one server can handle only 11 tables at any point of time. Now he understood that. That's in the same way in the performance testing stress test. Okay, now what we will do is we will gradually increase the load. When I say the load, we'll gradually increase the number of users. So let's say initially we started the test with 100 users. Now we increased another 100, let's say 200. Now increase another 400, let's say 600. Okay, it's now what is happening? Okay, I'm getting the response. The application is servers are responding very well for 600 users also. Now let's say I added another 400. Now there are 1000 users. Now with these 1000 users, still the servers are responding, but there's a slight delay. Now instead of the pages were loading in 2 seconds earlier, now because of huge load, the pages are loading in, let's say, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. They are taking 20, 30, or in fact 1 minute, because the number of users are doubled, or for 5 times, they increased by 5 times. Now let's say the number of users are increased to 1500. Now the server stopped responding. Now the server stopped responding, or it crashed. Actually the server crashed because it could not handle that much load. Now from the performance tester perspective, what we observed that this application could handle only 1000 users max with the given configuration, with the given server configuration. This particular application can handle only 1000 users. Now that's the stress test. At some point of time it will break. Now what is the objective of this test? Is to obtain the breaking point or saturation point. Okay, now once the breaking point is attained, there is a noticeable increase in errors, or also the big increase in response time, or the server will crash. Obviously when the server will crash, we'll get all the errors. Okay, so that's all about the stress test. Now there is another test called endurance or soak or duration. Different projects or different companies call it with these different names. In some projects they call it as endurance test, in some projects they call it as soak test, in some projects they call it as duration test. Now in my experience, I have seen all these three. In the recent projects, what I'm doing, they are calling it as duration test. The earlier projects, couple of years ago, they call it as soak test. Okay, so all these three are same names. Should not get confused. Okay, now what is this soak or endurance or duration test? Is we have to testing for stability. I told you, right? The load test we have directly related to speed. This particular endurance, soak or duration test is directly related to stability. Now, what is this stability? We are testing this application for stability. That means we are testing this application to run for 8 hours, 5 hours, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days as well. Okay, so why we have to test for these many days? Okay, the response times should be constant throughout the test. Okay, so in the first 1 hour, how the response times are coming, like let's say less than 2 seconds. The same less than 2 seconds or the same response time should be there until the test is completed, or the test can be completed in 5 hours or 8 hours or 1 day, 3 days or 5 days. Okay, so all these 5 days the response time should be constant. No, it cannot. In the first day, if the response times, if they are less than 2 seconds, second day or third day the response times cannot be 30 seconds or 1 minute. It has to be less in 2 seconds or max 3 seconds. No, there should not be so much deviation. Okay, so yes, now you might get it out like, do we really test it for 8 hours, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days? Yes, there are applications where we test it for 8 hours or 1 day or 3 days or 5 days. So minimum 3 to 5 hours also we'll test in some projects. Okay, so purpose of this test is to identify performance bottlenecks like memory leaks and etc. Okay, so if you are aware of some basic coding knowledge, okay, so I'll tell you what is this memory leaks all about. Okay, so the memory leaks, in sense, let's say that your RAM is of 4 GB. Okay, or let's say your RAM is of 8 GB. Okay, let's say your RAM is of 8 GB. Out of 8 GB, the application team or the development team has allocated 4 GB as heap memory. Okay, what is this heap memory and all about? We'll discuss in detail, after a few sessions. But on a high level, I can say that whatever the objects we create in some programming language like Java or something like, so all the memory will be, utilized from the heap memory. Heap memory will be utilized for that. So for example, in traditional programming languages like C and all, where we didn't create any objects, okay, we created some variables like I equal to 10 or int I equal to 10 or long L equal to 20 or string A S equal to ABC or something like that, right? And in OOPS programming languages or something like Java or .NET, how we create objects? We create you remember, like we will create employee E equal to new employee, student S equal to new student. We create objects like this, right, in programming languages. So whenever we create any object, obviously some amount of memory will be allocated. Obviously, some amount of memory will be allocated. So in so whenever we create any objects, after we use those objects, no, when I say we, not we, the actual developers. So this is more, this little concept is more about development perspective. Okay, so the developers, when they create objects, right, when they write code, when they create objects, after using all those objects, they have to destroy the object, or they have to, they have to delete that object, or in fact the good word is destroy. They have to destroy the object, or they have to kill the object. Okay, otherwise the memory will be continuously utilized. Okay, so if they are not if they are creating hundreds and thousands of objects like that, and if they are not killing those objects, the memory will be full. Okay, let's say we are running that let's say we are running this duration test for 4 hours or 5 hours. Let's say we are running this duration test for 5 hours. So let's say, what is the heap memory? 4 GB memory is there for heap memory. Okay, now in the first 1 hour there is a 4 GB memory and the script is running fine, and as per the code, the developer has written the code, he created objects, but he forgot to kill the object or destroy the objects. He in normal application there will be hundreds and thousands of objects actually. So imagine, for every object, if there is some amount of memory gets allocated, now if we are not killing or destroying that object, now obviously the memory will be full. Okay, so let's say we are running the test for 5 hours, and we have a 4 GB heap memory, and we run the script, and as we run the script, obviously the code will run in the backend. When the code is running, the objects will get created. Okay, so we are good. The first 1 hour we are good, and the next 1 hour, okay, and the next 1 hour, that because the developer did not write a code to kill or destroy the object, it used for the first 1 hour it used 1 GB of memory, and we have only 3 GB remaining. And the next 1 hour it used another 1 GB, and we have only 2 GB remaining. And in the third 1 hour, again 1 more GB utilized, we have only 1 GB. And after 4 hours, there is no memory at all. There is no memory at all. That means there is no memory. When there is no memory, obviously the application will stop responding. The application will crash. Okay, we will get some errors called out of memory. Okay, so to identify these kind of issues, these kind of memory leak issues, we'll test this, we'll work on this endurance or soak or duration test. Okay, So now this is all about the endurance, soak, and duration. Okay, so to avoid this, they deallocate it after usage. Now in recent programming language, like in recent changes and all, now this concept of destroying or killing the objects is happening automatically instead of develop. Sometimes in traditional language, developers used to do it manually. They have to write some delete object or something like that, kill or something like that, right? So now in the recent things, it is happening automatically. So if the object is not used for longer time, it will be killed automatically. Okay, so this is okay. Now the next one is scalability test. Now we discussed this, right? The scalability. Obviously, the name is scalability, and we can directly relate it to the term scalability. Now this particular test is all about testing the application, for future load. So currently, if you are testing our application with 100 users, and let's say the client is assuming that his particular application or his particular business will grow in next 1 year by, let's say, 100%. Okay, so that means we have to test. That means there will be 200 users in next 1 year. So keeping that in mind, now only we'll test with 200 users. Okay. Now, if you see test is performed using the user load, considering the growth of the application under test down the years. Well, let's say current expected load is 500 users, assuming 50% growth in next 1 year. Now, the test will be done using 750 users now itself. So, keeping future growth in mind, we will test the application with a higher number of users. Now, the client will tell like how much growth he is assuming or expecting in next 1 year. So based on that, we will perform a scalability test. Okay. The last one is volume test. This is the last one. This is the volume test. This is more about the database, and actually it is pretty much similar to load test. In fact, it is it's a kind of load test only. The only change is the data will be more, or data will be huge in the database. Okay. For example, let's say currently in the database there are 1 lakh records. There are 1 lakh records, and I'm testing. I'm doing my load test and all. Okay. Now, if this application is in production for next 1 or 2 years, now what the client is assuming that, or what we are assuming that in database there will be 4 lakh records. Let's assume there will be 4 lakh records. Now, keeping that in mind, now if there are 4 lakh records, how the application is responding, how my SQL queries are running. Okay, how fast the data is coming from the database. Okay, because the number of records are huge. So keeping that in mind, what we will do is we will perform the same load test, but we will intentionally insert those 2 lakh or 3 lakh records in the database and see how the application is behaving. Okay, so if you see, it will be the same as the load test. Expect that the huge data populated in the database. Purpose of this test is to check if there is any change in response time with increase in DB volumes. Okay, so if you see the example, currently there are 1 lakh records in database, and assuming after 1 year there would be 4 lakh records. So the test would be currently done with 4 lakh records data in database. Everything we are assuming now itself, like this could happen in future, this could happen in future, and we are performing. It could be a scalability test, or it could be a volume test. But this is very rare, volume test. But most frequent ones are load test, endurance test, and scalability test. Okay, these three are more frequently tested. So now I'll open this Q&A session. Like you guys can ask any queries if you have related to these types of performance testing, and you can ask any generic question. If you didn't attend the previous demo session, you can ask your all your generic questions as well. Like it could be related to the it could be related to the course content, or it could be related to the course duration, or anything. So in the previous session, we discussed about course content as well. Now, for those who didn't attend previous session, so this is the course content. And apart from these, like this architecture basics, performance testing, for gathering and all. In this only we'll be covering some C language basics as well, like for 3-4 sessions. To tweak the script. Okay, we record some scripts, right? So we have to enhance those scripts so that it will run a number of times. So for that purpose, we'll be learning some C language basics as well. And apart from this particular load runner tool, we will be adding couple of sessions for app dynamics, which is a monitoring tool. Like we will get to know, like what are the methods that are running slow, what are the SQL queries that are running slow. We can see everything there using that monitoring tool. And we'll be discussing about little bit about Jenkins, and because everything is agile now, right? So we have to understand that CI/CD Jenkins. And we'll be discussing some high level memory leak issues, like the heap memory, non-heap memory, JVM, if it's a Java application, JVM, and how we have to debug or how we have to analyze when there are different kinds of issues. Like if the response times are very slow or very high, sorry, the response times are very high, how we have to analyze or how we have to identify the bottleneck. If the application is crashed, how we have to analyze, or how we can detect the issue, where it went wrong or what could be the issue. So all these different types of issues we'll be discussing. The real-time examples will show with some detailed explanation. And apart from that, we'll be discussing about one tool called Fiddler, like how to capture requests when there is some issue with load runner recording and all. Okay, so it will be a 1-month course. So any other questions from you guys? So first 3-4 sessions, not next 2 to 3 sessions will be more of theoretical, and then after that everything will be practical sessions. Right from scripting and all, because we have to understand those concepts. They are very important. Next 2 days sessions. Okay. So any other questions?
Yeah, I have one question. Like you said that in the endurance testing, the bottlenecks are like memory leaks or something. We can find it from the endurance testing. What about the network latency, or how the network latency is captured, or how that is found?
See, network latency. Generally, it's a totally different concept actually. So now, what as a performance tester from this load runner tool, now what we are identifying, I'll tell you. So whatever the request we are sending it to server, right? So let's say the request will be going to the server, right? Now the server will process the request and it will send a response back. Now this how fast the server is responding, that particular time only will be calculating. Okay, now in these tests, okay, basically with this protocol, when I say we'll be testing with this web HTTP HTML protocol, right? So with this protocol, we'll be calculating only this particular response time, because this is the main thing. Like the server, because 90% of the issues will come here in the with the servers behaving differently, or might be some issues with the servers. Now, if you want to know how much time it is taking to completely load in the browser, okay, so browser is not there here. Now sometimes why I'm telling you like this is because in browser there will be so many images that will get downloaded or loaded, or there will be some other pages which will some other objects which will get loaded, some CSS, some for displaying purpose, like for cascading style sheets and all. though that how much time it is taking to load with all that content, no, we will not be able to see with this particular protocol. Okay, and we will see only the server response times, how fast the server is responding. Now if you want to know how much time it is taking completely, including the browser response time as well, or let's say including the browser rendering time, then uh, we have to test with a different protocol called TrueClient. We have a protocol called TrueClient. It will give you the complete response time starting from browser till go, it includes the server response time and the browser rendering time as well. Okay, that is one thing. This is second thing. The third thing what you are telling is the network latency. Network latency in sense, for example, your data servers, what your application servers are in California. Let's assume that your application servers are California. Now you are sitting somewhere in India and you are accessing that application. Now the network time, the request from here to that particular server, it will take some time to reach that network later. That time we call it as network latency time. Okay, now to calculate that specifically, there are some tools in the market. It depends on the project, like they might use or they might not use. Okay, now if without using that tools also we can test actually. So now in recent project there was similar kind of issue. So how we tested, I'll tell you. Now let's assume that my application server is in California. Okay, California. Okay, now my load generator machines. Okay, my load generator machines. Now from where all these requests are hitting simultaneously, right? From my tool. Yeah. My load generator machines are in Mexico. Okay, let's say my load generator machines are in Mexico. Now I ran the test. Now my response times were average response times were 4 seconds, or let's say 3 seconds. Okay, let's say 3 seconds. Now I sent my report like with these observations, like average response time is 3 seconds and all. Initially I didn't know where my application server is residing. I didn't know initially, or in fact where my LG machines are there, I know, but I didn't see it. There is no need of looking at where your LG machines are residing. You can select any load generator machine which is available. Okay, so from a performance testing perspective, you can select. Now when I tested, I got this response times, average response time. I got 3 seconds. Now I sent the report to the development team, and including business analysts or client, everything. Now they replied that it should not take more than 2 seconds. It should not take more than 2 seconds. That's what they told me. It should not take more than 2 seconds. Okay, it should not take more than 2 seconds. Why they are telling? Because they tested in local with little bit of less number of users. They tested and they could see that that the response times are 2 seconds only. Okay, now from my load testing tool, from my load runner, when I ran the test, I could see in the report that it took 3 seconds. Now from their end, with their data, they are saying no, it did not take more than 2 seconds. From in server there will be some logs, right? So as per those logs, they could identify that it's not taking 2 seconds. Now why are you sending an email that it took 3 seconds? Now I was what I replied is, now then I debug. Now I asked them, where is your application server? Where is the data box? They said California. Now then I have seen where is my LG machines. They are in Mexico. Now that particular request, okay, network it depends on the bandwidth as well. Sometimes how fast your internet is, it depends on the bandwidth also. Sometimes if your application bandwidth is very poor, or if your network bandwidth is very poor, okay, if you are working in if your network speed is only 512 kbps or 10 kbps, obviously it will load slowly. Now if my network bandwidth is 100 mbps, obviously it will load quickly. That is one thing. That is again different. Now the request going from one location to another location, because the box is somewhere, my load generator machines are somewhere else. Okay, now because that's the reason I got 3 seconds. Now immediately what did I do? Now we have different load generator machines in California as well. Okay, now what did I do? While running the test, I selected my load generator machines from California. Now when I ran the test, I got average response time as 2 seconds. Now I sent this report to client and I said, okay, now that particular 1 second difference, whatever you observed and you said, is all about latency. And in any performance testing projects, 1 second, 2 seconds latency is acceptable. Okay, in any project, it could be any company or any client or whatever it is. Okay, so without using any specific tools of network latency, you can test like this also. Okay, but there are some tools in the market for network latency and all. It depends on the project. Some projects will use it or some projects will not use it, because most of them are freeware, the network latency ones. And all major MNCs or let's say banking financial companies, they won't use free tools, considering the data security. Now in that case, I have to test like this. And and whatever the load generator machines we are the company is configuring or the project is configuring for us, they will definitely have some set of load generator machines in their data centers, in the location where their data centers are residing. Okay, now let's take one bank application. Now let's take ICICI Bank. ICICI Bank has more than 50 or 100 applications. It could be actual normal application, or it could be a different. No, from customer perspective, we have only one application, that is ICICIbank.com. But for bank employees, they might have 50 plus applications. One application to calculate the CIBIL score, one application to calculate, to approve the loan, or one application, to register the complaints or to take the complaints. They might have internally 50 plus applications. All those 50 plus applications, servers will be residing at one data center, or 2 to 3 data centers, like one in Mumbai, one in US, or one in Chennai, or something like that. Okay, so it all depends on where your application server is residing and where your load generator machines are residing. Obviously, our projects, if there are 50 load generator machines, 10 will be residing where the data centers are residing, 10 will be there in California, 10 will be there in Mexico, 10 will be there in Mumbai. Like that, the load generators will be at different places. Okay, so use this technique whenever you don't have any network latency tools, or if you have your tools, that's well and good. It will clearly tell you how much is the network latency. And I will give you the list of tools in the market that are available in the market. Maybe this week I'll let you know the number of tools. Okay,
Thanks.
So any other questions?
Okay, this is Sandeep. My question is, let's say our load generators are in Mexico, as you said, right? So we want to simulate, a scenario wherein our users are specifically in US, or let's say California. So how can we use our Mexico load generators to simulate, the network latency that California would be having? So what is the right way? Load run, what all options? Load runner.
Let's assume that. Got it. So let's assume that it is an application in USA, and that particular application is not available outside USA. Okay, it's restricted only to USA, and only people of USA are accessing. Now, in USA, there are different states, right? So let's say my data center is in California. Okay, my data center is in California. So now whatever, because that particular project is only for US, the project, when they are configuring these load generator machines, they'll configure it in different states, like New Jersey, Iowa, okay, or North Carolina, or Texas, something like that. They have different load generator machines in multiple places within US. So obviously you can select a load generator machine within US, or if you want to select from within California, you can select within California.
I'm saying that, let's say it is not configured. So load generators are still configured from Mexico only. And now, as you said, the network latency from Mexico to California is huge. So that's why you said, right, there would be around 2 to 3 seconds delay.
Yeah.
But if the same application is being used from Texas or any other state, then the latency would be less. Let's say it will
Yeah,
be 1.
latency would be less. Yeah.
So then what I'm saying is, if the load generator is in Mexico, then how can we use the same load generators to simulate the the network traffic from Texas to California or like that? Like, is there any way in load generator we can put a static latency, or we can set up some kind of other configuration which will let us mimic this particular scenario?
So if see, the first thing is, if the network latency is less than a second or 1 second, first of all, there will not be any issue if it's less than second. Actually, in fact, the client will always, he'll be definitely okay if it is less than 1 second. Okay, because it's always a fraction of a second, right? So it's very hard to calculate those kind of scenarios using this method. For example, if the data center is in California, and if you want to trigger a request from Texas, and if the network latency is less than a second, so obviously it will be difficult to find out, but still it is possible, because our load runner tool will show the average response time in milliseconds as well. Let's say if it is, if we are running the test from California itself, where both load generator machines and data server is in same place, if it is showing 2.5 seconds or 2.57 seconds to be specific. If I'm running from Texas, it might show 2.86 seconds on an average. The average response time can differ here and there. It can be 0.10 seconds or 0.2 seconds. It can change, not a problem. But the major thing impact will be there if the network latency is more. But what you are saying, if from Texas, obviously network latency will be very less, but in that case there will not be any issue, right? First of all, and in that case, if you still want to debug more, then you have to use some network latency tools. And when you can go, let's assume that it's a small company, and there are no, first of all, there are no load generator machines okay, in California itself, or nearby, or wherever we want. Then obviously there is only one option, that either you have to tell client that, okay, there is a network latency, there will be a network latency of 1 to 2 seconds. Okay, you can ignore that, or you can ask them to configure a new one machine, one load generator machine in specific location. Recently, in one of the previous projects, we had this issue, and we raised a request, and they configured it in 5 days in that particular location. See, the thing is, it depends on the company, it depends on the project, it depends on the company that we are working. If it's a small company, then there will be more challenges with respect to the environment setup and everything. If it's a big MNC, then everything will be ready for us. As a performance tester, we go in, we select everything we want, and we do a load test or whatever it is. If it's a small company, then it's we'll face all these challenges. Then we have to, then the client will also know that this is a small company, and the project is also a small project. And then client will also say, oh yeah, it's okay for me, 1 second latency or 2 second latency, I'm okay, instead of spending so much amount for new machines configuration in some locations, I'm okay with this 1 second latency. That's fine. It all depends on the projects also.
Okay, thank you.
So any other questions? Actually, that's the reason they will maintain these load generator machines at multiple locations. Does anyone know a tool called BlazeMeter? Or anyone, have you ever heard about it? BlazeMeter, it's all about running our tests in cloud, the JMeter tests in cloud. Have you ever heard about it? Actually, BlazeMeter. So it's in that particular tool, the project or the company people need not spend so much amount for for maintaining those servers and all. Okay, we need not maintain, we need not do that, we need not have that maintenance cost. What we will do is we'll buy a package from that Blazemeter, and they will give us the servers. They have their servers in more than 100 countries, and more than 100 places. Okay, so obviously in from whichever country you want to test it, you select that location. In India, we have in Chennai and Mumbai, 2 locations we have. Blazemeter has the setup. Okay, so if the going forward in future, if companies are tying up with working purchasing licenses with those tools, they will have n number of options ready. Actually, even it won't take much time also. If the companies are paying amount, they will give license as per, they'll then assign the package, or they'll give access to the package as per our requirement. It's as simple as that in near future. Okay. Any other questions?